is going on, guys? We are here for week 3 of the Porsche Cup Fixed Track Guide series. This week we're at Road Atlanta, so should be a pretty good little circuit to race at actually. So few sort of high speed down the hill style corners with a couple of long radius corners in the middle, and then nice long straight with a tight chicane at the end of the back straight. So nice simple layout, but yeah, obviously still needing to focus on a couple of things to really get drive out of the corner. So hopefully last week's racing was good for you guys at Bathurst, and yeah, let's kick off and get into round 3 of the track guide at Road Atlanta. Alright guys, so now we're going to break down the lap. So as you come down into turn 1, you want to be to the left hand side of the track. Just after the 100 metre board, but before the wall. So in GT3 style cars and cars with ABS and stuff, you can brake right at that wall. I'm finding in the Porsche Cup, just because you put so much load on the front tyre and it tends to lock the front and just slide through the corner. So I'm sort of a bit before, so I would say probably around that 90 metre mark from the corner apex. So when you look at it sort of like this, about a car length to a length and a half from the end of the grass is where I start to brake, nice and aggressive, 6th gear back to 4th. Now when I come into the corner, I kind of like, I guess you could say I diagonal in the braking zone slightly. So like from the wall, I start to sort of line up with the motel sign, and then I sort of come in at this angle, and then as I get closer and closer to the corner, I'm like at the apex, if that makes sense. So I'm kind of like trying to flow the car in, I guess you could say, because it's such a unique corner in the way that it goes uphill, it's cambered in, and then it sort of flattens out on the exit, and it's uphill, and it's still turning for such a long period. I'm trying to sort of flow the car in so I can sort of get the drive up the hill. So I sort of diagonal the car in, get it right to the apex. The car pushes wide, mid-corner in 4th, but I don't really want to go any wider than sort of this point. No further past than this crease on the track here. And then as I come back, I sort of want to get myself back to this side as close to that blue cone as possible. And I sort of line up with this tree coming up the hill directly in front of us. And then as I get to the crest of the hill, I start to turn the car and I look for the V in the trees right there. And that's the angle I take into the corner. So I come in a diagonal trajectory, I get the car over the curb, and then I focus on the drive down the hill. So then from there, so back to 2nd gear. It's not a short shift to 3rd, but it's like a stability shift. So as you come out of the corner, you start to accelerate, you sort of lift, shift, and then you sort of hug the inside of this curb the whole way down. and you just sort of dance on the throttle, building up throttle pressure, but don't come off the curb. Your car's going to slide. You don't want it to go any further wide than about this point here. So then that way you sort of set up for the next segment of corners. As you come down the hill, I take a little lift off the throttle as I get to the start of the cones on the right hand side. So just a little lift just to get the nose to start to tuck in, and then pick the throttle up again. 2 tyres over the curb is fine here. Then try and get the car to sort of diagonal straight. You'll nick the tyres over the curb on this side, and then you flat through the gears to 5th, and then once you get to this curb here, start to brake. You can brake with the 2 right hand tyres on the curb a little bit. 4th gear back to 3rd gear, 5th gear back to 4th gear back to 3rd gear. Once the curb ends, that's when you turn the car in. So at the end of the blue part of the curb, that's where I drop the tyres off the curb and start to turn the car at the corner. Get nice and close to this curb. You can nick it if you want to. I don't use too much curb on the entry here because I find sometimes it can sort of upset the balance, and I'm trying to focus on drive traction out of the corner. So I get as close to the curb as possible, but I try not to hit it. And then the car's going to slide out in 3rd gear over the back of the curb. You want to sort of put this much car over the curb. You can go further, but I just find it's the right amount sort of thing. Otherwise, there is a few bumps and a few other bits and pieces. If you push too hard, you'll catch the sand. Like, there's a lot that can go wrong there. So, and the car does tend to go quite light as you get up on the curb. So you've got to be careful with that, not to over-rotate it and end up in the side wall. So, off of there in 3rd, up to 4th, up to 5th. As you come down here, there's 3 markers you can use. You can either use the 200 meter board, the white line on the track, or the start of like the little bitumen runoff area up against the fence. So for myself personally, I really like the line. It is a bit harder to spot during a race when you've got cars around you, but I just feel like that's the best thing to sort of view at the same time. You know, you're not looking to the left or looking to the right trying to find the bay if there's cars around you. So I sort of keep my left hand tyres on the road crease or the crack in the road. Big brake pressure, 5th gear back to 3rd. I start to turn in at this white line by the tyre bundle. I turn the car at the corner. I apex at the second half of the curb. So I clip the apex just here, near the end of it. And then I let the car track out to the edge of the road. Now, this part of the track's a little bit unique in there's no marker. So I'm braking 3 yellow squares from the end. That's my sort of reference point. I make sure I'm as close to the curb as possible to make sure I get the most out of it. 3rd gear, back to 2nd gear. But I don't turn the car in until the yellow line turns to the white line. So once this turns here, that's when I turn the car at the corner. Clip the curb on the way out, or get as close to it as possible. Focus on drive traction. Once you get to this sort of point, start to accelerate. Once you're in line with the second blue wall, then you know you've got a lot more comfort. The car's going to run right out to the edge of the curb. Up through the gears. Under the motel bridge, I start to drift towards the right hand side by this point. Stay close to the white line coming through here, and then you're setting yourself up for a brake marker. So this one's really hard as well because there's no brake marker, right? I'm braking about the 150 mark. So I've worked out that there's 2 concrete walls that they're not a different colour, but they're a slightly different colour. So them 2 whiter walls is where I'm braking for the car. So right here. So it's about 150, 160 metres. Obviously, you're going downhill. Then you've got to try and get the car to slow down, but then focus on the drive out of the corner. So I sacrifice a little bit on entry here to really get the car in to where I need it to be, so then I can really focus on the drive up the hill and focus on that part of the circuit. So come down, max gear, back to second gear, turn in at the end of the curb on the right hand side here. So turn the car in, second gear. I put 2 wheels over the curb. Just be careful not to catch the grass or the sand, because it will give you an off track. You've got to be sort of on the curb enough. Then sort of corner sacrifice a little tiny bit. So you still want to be heading towards it, but you see how I'm sort of near the crack in the bitumen, and then I'm going to turn the car up the hill. So once I start to turn the car up the hill, then I shift to third. The car's going to run right out to the edge of the road. And then as I come under the bridge, I'm about 1.5 foot off the white line. And I don't really have a marker coming in, but what I want to do is once this, you see the white line, how it completely changes direction quickly. Once it gets to that point, you can start to sort of spot where you want to go. So you want to make sure you set yourself up so as you come down the hill, you're aiming for the end of the curb. So as you come down, you're going to hit the end of the curb. And then once you get there, you start turning the car at the corner. And you want to get on the second part of the curb. So this part right here is where you want to hit. About 3 to 5 meters before the end of the curb. That's where you want to hit. The car's going to sort of slide off there right to the edge of the road on the left-hand side. And there you go, guys. That is your track guide walkthrough of Road Atlanta in the Porsche 992 GT3 Cup car. I hope this has helped you, and good luck for your week of racing. Thanks, guys.